The wind howled across the rocky, crimson landscape of Kepler 452b, whipping dust and sharp mineral fragments against the cracked hull of the exploration vessel. Inside, HFY Park lay motionless, his breathing shallow and irregular. Blood trickled from a deep gash on his forehead, mixing with the fine reddish dust that had infiltrated every crevice of the damaged spacecraft. Moments earlier, a sudden gravitational anomaly had torn through the vessel's protective shields, sending it spiraling uncontrollably before crashing into the planet's unforgiving terrain. The impact had been brutal, crushing the left side of the vessel and throwing HFY against the control panel with devastating force. His communication systems were dead. No distress signal could escape the planet's dense electromagnetic field. No hope of rescue seemed possible. The temperature was dropping rapidly, and the toxic atmosphere outside promised a quick and painful death if internal systems failed. HFY's eyes flickered. Memories of Earth rushed through his mind. His small apartment in Seoul, the research team he had left behind, the ambitious mission to map unexplored planetary systems. Now, it all seemed like a distant dream. His fingers, once steady during complex calculations, now trembled uncontrollably. Outside, something moved, a shimmer in the air almost invisible against the rust-colored landscape. A wave of energy that didn't belong to this harsh world. HFY thought he was hallucinating, a final trick of a dying mind. But the shimmer grew more distinct. Crystalline patterns of light began to coalesce, forming a strange geometric shape that defied the planet's natural physics. It pulsed with an intelligence that felt both alien and deliberate. Aaron Koval watched through her bio-enhanced sensory array. Her species had long monitored this sector, tracking signals and scanning for potential life forms. When the human vessel's distress signature had briefly flickered across her monitoring systems, she knew intervention was necessary. The rescue protocols of her civilization were strict. Any sentient being found in critical condition must be saved regardless of species or origin. But saving came with a price. A social contract that bound the rescued to the rescuer, an ancient tradition that ensured survival and maintained complex social structures. Her energy field penetrated the damaged vessel's hull, scanning HFY's vital signs. Severe internal bleeding, fractured ribs, potential brain trauma, survival probability 12.6%, not acceptable. With precision that seemed almost magical, Aaron's technological intervention began. Nano-repair systems infiltrated HFY's body, targeting damaged cells, stabilizing critical systems, rebuilding what the crash had destroyed. His broken bones realigned, internal bleeding stopped, and oxygen levels began to normalize. HFY's eyes opened. Blurry shapes, sounds that didn't make sense, a presence that felt neither human nor completely alien. His last conscious thought, before darkness claimed him again, was a mixture of confusion and unexpected hope. Aaron observed her new claim with clinical detachment. Humans were rare in this sector, unpredictable, chaotic, but occasionally fascinating. This one had survived, where most would have perished. That alone made him interesting. As she prepared to transport the unconscious human to her vessel, a set of complex calculations already forming in her mind, she knew nothing would be the same again. Not for her, not for him, not for their respective civilizations. The rescue was complete. The contract was sealed. A new journey was about to begin. The planet's harsh winds continued to blow, indifferent to the extraordinary event that had just transpired on its desolate surface. Would you like me to elaborate on any specific aspect of this section? The healing chamber hummed with a soft, rhythmic pulse. Translucent blue energy wrapped around HFY's body, slowly knitting together his remaining injuries. Aaron watched from a nearby control panel, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that shifted and changed like liquid light. HFY's first conscious breath was different. The air felt thicker, charged with something beyond ordinary oxygen. Each inhale brought a strange tingling sensation that spread from his lungs to his fingertips. He tried to move but found his muscles responded differently, more precise almost, enhanced. "You are awake," Aaron's voice cut through the chamber's ambient noise. It wasn't a question. Her language translated perfectly in HFY's mind, a result of the neural interface that had been carefully integrated during his healing process. The room around him defied everything he understood about spacecraft design. Walls seemed to breathe, changing color and texture with subtle environmental shifts. Geometric patterns moved just beyond his direct vision, creating an unsettling sense of living architecture. Where am I? HFY's voice sounded different, clearer, with an unexpected resonance. Aaron's eyes, large, iridescent with multiple pupils, studied him carefully. You are on the stellar horizon, my vessel. You were recovered from Kepler 452b after a critical system failure. HFY remembered fragments, the crash, the pain, the moment everything went dark. But something else nagged at the edge of his consciousness, a complex set of rules he was only beginning to understand. I'm claimed, he said, the word feeling strange on his tongue. It wasn't a question, but a statement of newfound reality. A slight movement crossed Aaron's face. Something between amusement and acknowledgement. Your understanding is correct. In our civilization, a rescued individual becomes a bound companion. You have obligations, responsibilities. The healing chamber began to retract, its energy fields dissolving like morning mist. HFY realized he was wearing something that wasn't clothing, more like a living membrane that adjusted to his body's temperature and movement. His first steps were tentative. Each movement felt like a negotiation between his old body and something new. Enhanced muscles, improved neural pathways. The medical intervention had done more than just heal. It had fundamentally changed him. Aaron watched his adaptation with clinical interest. Humans were rare in her experience, unpredictable, emotional, driven by impulses that defied logical calculation. This one seemed different. His curiosity burned bright, his eyes constantly scanning, analyzing. You will learn our ways, she stated. Not a suggestion, not a threat, simply a fact. A holographic display materialized, showing complex cultural diagrams, communication protocols, and social structures that made human bureaucracy look like child's play. HFY's engineering mind began to process the information, creating mental maps and connections. What happens if I don't comply? He asked, a hint of the defiance that had made humans both dangerous and fascinating to alien civilizations. Aaron's response was immediate. Non-compliance means dissolution of the rescue contract, which translates to immediate return to the conditions that would have killed you on Kepler 452b. The message was clear. Adaptation wasn't just recommended, it was survival. Outside the chamber, the vessel moved through star lanes that twisted and folded space in ways human physics could never comprehend. Distant star systems painted brief, beautiful landscapes against the vessel's transparent walls. HFY understood then that his life had irrevocably changed. He was no longer just a human explorer. He was something else, something in between. A bridge between two civilizations, bound by a rescue that was becoming much more than a simple act of survival. Aaron continued to watch and wait. The real test was just beginning. Would you like me to provide more details or clarify any part of this section? The technology chamber buzzed with an electric tension. HFY stood before a complex machine that looked more like a living organism than a piece of equipment. Alien scientists watched him with a mixture of skepticism and grudging curiosity. Aaron's voice echoed through the chamber. Your task is simple. Repair the quantum stabilization matrix. The device before him was a nightmare of interlocking crystal, networks, and pulsing energy conduits. To most beings, it would look like an impossible puzzle. But HFY saw something different. He saw possibilities. His fingers moved differently now, enhanced by the alien medical intervention. Each movement, precise and calculated. Where other engineers saw complexity, he saw patterns. Where they saw barriers, he saw solutions. The alien scientists exchanged glances. Humans were considered primitive, emotional, barely worth serious consideration. But this human moved with a grace that challenged their preconceptions. 3 hours passed. The quantum matrix had defeated 12 previous repair attempts by the vessel's top technicians. HFY worked silently, his mind racing through multiple problem-solving scenarios. He wasn't just fixing the device, he was reimagining its entire, functional structure, a sudden spark, a moment of transformation. The matrix hummed to life, its energy patterns stabilizing in ways no one had predicted. The alien scientists stood in stunned silence. Aaron's eyes widened almost imperceptibly. "Impossible," muttered one of the senior technicians. But it wasn't impossible. It was simply human ingenuity. HFY's background as an aerospace engineer gave him a unique perspective. Where alien technology followed rigid mathematical models, he introduced adaptive thinking. He saw the matrix not as a fixed system, but as a living, breathing mechanism that could be coached into better performance. Later that evening, in the personal quarters assigned to him, HFY reflected on the day. The walls around him were alive, literally. They shifted color based on his emotional state, creating a living environment that responded to his every mood. Erin entered without warning. Her movement was silent, almost predatory. "The senior counsel is interested," she said, her tone revealing nothing. HFY understood the unspoken message. He was being evaluated. Every action, every solution was a test of his worth. The rescue contract could be dissolved at any moment if he failed to prove his value. The vessel traveled through regions of space that defied human understanding. Quantum. Lanes twisted and folded, creating shortcuts through the universe that made traditional space travel look like crawling compared to running. During meal times, HFY noticed how the other alien crew members watched him. Initially with suspicion, now with a growing sense of reluctant respect. He wasn't just a rescued specimen anymore. He was becoming something more. His next challenge came quickly. A complex communication network had been failing, disrupting critical mission parameters. Where others saw an insurmountable technical problem, HFY saw a communication puzzle. Using principles from human networking technologies and combining them with alien quantum communication theories, he developed a hybrid solution that left the alien engineers speechless. "Adaptation," Aaron commented, watching him work. "Your species' greatest strength." HFY realized he was no longer just proving his individual worth. He was representing humanity itself. Every solution, every innovative approach was a statement about human potential. The vessel continued its journey through the vast, mysterious universe. And HFY, once a simple human explorer, was becoming something entirely unexpected. A bridge between worlds. A proof of potential. A living demonstration that survival wasn't just about strength, but about the ability to think differently. Would you like me to elaborate on any specific aspect of this section? The alarm screamed across the vessel, a sound that seemed to tear through metal and consciousness. HFY's eyes snapped open, recognizing danger before he was fully awake. Something was very wrong. Quantum shadows began eating through the vessel's protective shields. They weren't just a threat. They were a living, consuming force that devoured technology like a hungry predator. The alien crew moved with precision, but panic lived just beneath their controlled surface. Aaron's voice cut through the chaos. Quantum parasites. They consumed technological systems, converting advanced civilizations into raw energy. HFY understood immediately. This wasn't a traditional enemy. This was a civilization that existed between technological states, something beyond normal understanding. They didn't attack. They consumed, absorbed, transformed. The first wave hit like a silent explosion. Communication systems collapsed. Navigation networks disintegrated. Entire sections of the massive vessel went dark, consumed by the quantum shadows that moved with terrifying intelligence. Most alien species would have surrendered. Calculation would have suggested impossible odds. But HFY saw something different. Where others saw destruction, he saw a complex system with weaknesses. His human brain, enhanced by alien technology, began processing at speeds that surprised even Aaron. Patterns emerged. The quantum parasites had a fundamental weakness. They consumed technology linearly, following predictable absorption patterns. "We can trick them," HFY said, his voice calm against the vessel's increasing panic. Aaron looked at him. For the first time, something like real respect flickered in her multiple-pupilled eyes. The plan was radical, impossible by traditional, technological standards. HFY proposed creating a technological decoy, a complex network that would look like the vessel's primary systems, but was actually a trap. Alien engineers argued, protested, calculated their potential losses. But time was running out. The quantum shadows were consuming entire sections of the vessel, converting advanced technology into raw energy. HFY worked faster than anyone thought possible. His fingers danced across alien interfaces, creating a technological maze that would confuse and trap the quantum parasites. It wasn't just a defensive strategy. It was technological judo, using the enemy's strength against itself. The first test came quickly. Quantum shadows approached the carefully constructed technological network. For a moment, everything held perfect silence, then explosion, but not of destruction, of absorption. The quantum parasites consumed the decoy network, believing they had found their primary target. But instead, they found a complex trap that would slowly disintegrate their own technological structure. Aaron watched in stunned silence as HFY essentially rewrote the rules of technological warfare. Humans weren't just survivors. They were innovators. "How?" she finally asked. HFY smiled. "Sometimes you don't fight complexity. You create a more complex solution." The vessel's surviving systems slowly came back online. Sections that should have been destroyed remained intact. The quantum parasites had been not just stopped, but fundamentally defeated. Alien leaders gathered. Discussions happened in languages that shifted and changed like living things. But the message was clear. The human had done what entire civilizations could not. Aaron understood then that her claim was more than a rescue contract. It was the beginning of something much larger. A partnership that could change the understanding of technological survival. The universe watched. And somewhere in the vast quantum darkness, something learned that not all technological systems could be easily consumed. Humanity had just made its mark. Would you like me to provide more details? Or clarify any part of this section? The transformation chamber glowed with a soft, pulsing light. HFY stood at its center, surrounded by alien technologies that seemed to breathe with living energy. Everything he had experienced, the crash, the rescue, the challenges, had led to this moment. Alien leaders gathered around the chamber's perimeter. Their usual rigid postures had changed. Where once they looked at humans with clinical detachment, now they watched with something closer to respect. Aaron stepped forward. The rescue contract that had bound them was about to be fundamentally transformed. "You have changed everything," she said, her voice carrying through the chamber's acoustic design. The quantum parasite attack had been more than a battle. It had been a fundamental challenge to technological civilization. And HFY had done what no other species had managed. He had not just defended, but completely reimagined defensive strategy. Holographic records played around them. Moments of HFY's journey. The crashed vessel, his healing, the technology, challenges, the quantum parasite defense. Each moment told a story of adaptation, innovation, survival. The alien civilization's oldest leaders began a complex ritual. Words that sounded like music and mathematics intertwined. The rescue contract was being rewritten. No longer was HFY a claimed individual. He was becoming something else entirely. A bridge, one elder said, between civilizations. His human body had been enhanced, neural pathways expanded, technological understanding deepened, but his core, his human spirit of innovation, remained unchanged. That was his real strength. The transformation chamber's energy reached a crescendo. Memories flooded through HFY, Earth, his research team, the small apartment in Seoul. But now, those memories were part of something larger, a story of human potential. Aaron watched carefully. The human had exceeded every calculation, every prediction. He wasn't just surviving, he was proving that humanity was a force to be recognized. Suddenly, the chamber's energy stabilized. HFY stood transformed, not just physically, but in a way that transcended simple biological change. "You are no longer claimed," Aaron said. "You are invited." The words meant more than simple language could express. An invitation to participate, to collaborate, to be part of something larger than a single species or civilization. Outside the chamber, star systems moved. Galaxies shifted. The universe continued its endless dance of creation and destruction. But something had changed. A small moment of human potential had just reshaped possibilities. HFY looked at his hands. They seemed both familiar and completely new, enhanced, expanded, connected to technologies beyond human understanding. The alien leaders began discussing new protocols, how to integrate human thinking into their technological frameworks, how to learn from this unexpected discovery. "Adaptation is survival," one elder said, looking directly at HFY. He understood now. His journey wasn't just personal, it was a statement about human potential, about the ability to transform, to innovate, to survive against impossible odds. The transformation chamber's light began to fade, but something new had been born. A connection, a possibility, a future where civilizations could truly understand each other. Aaron approached HFY, no longer a rescuer, no longer a claim holder, but something closer to a partner. "What happens now?" HFY asked. Her response was simple. "We explore." The universe waited. Endless, mysterious, full of potential, and humanity had just proven it was ready for the journey. "Would you like me to provide more details or clarify any part of this section?"